My name is Shamar Hemphill. I am one of the deputy directors, have the pleasure of serving in this organization for the last 13 years. And happy to be here with you all today for National Special Power Hour. Our Power Hour space was created back in 2016 to really combat this notion of fighting fear while still building power. We created this space to fight this idea of feeling isolated and that our communities are connected and that it's a space to share stories, to build power, to really infuse our arts and culture expression and acknowledge the fact that, you know, how expressive we are around issues and how we're still connected and connecting disconnected communities. And we do this every week, but we wanted to take the time to really center the story of a very powerful woman, right, around a very important issue that IMAN is no stranger to, and all of our allies, and most of you probably on this virtual call today, around police accountability, a story that we've had the chance over the last year and a half to really get to know this woman in Chicago, a very powerful leader in Buffalo. And so, I'm so grateful that we get to center her story and also share her story continuously, as she's in a very important part of her journey towards justice. We will get a chance to hear from other powerful women as well in the conversation, along with allies who are definitely have been working in the trenches with us in this special moment. We also want to thank Dr. Ansari, I believe, who also has joined, a special woman in Buffalo as well, who is a powerful vehicle for all of us and a reminder of what not giving up means, and especially in this time of a public health crisis. So your motto is totally a model for the whole world, and we definitely look to learn from you. So we thank you for joining. And I pray that we all get a chance to really learn something today, but also leave with the passion towards a call to action to really get justice for our sister Cariol. And as you can see on screen, our executive director is all the way in Buffalo now, who will be leading that kind of interview and conversation and in this powerful discussion and really talking about why this story is so important and how this is central to the issue of police accountability. So with all of that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Rami to introduce the powerful panel and also get the conversation started, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace and blessings be upon you all. Thank you, my dear beloved brother Shamar, and for all of you, the IMAN board members, Brother Abid Muhyiddin, Dr. Al-Din, for our extraordinary leaders, our queen mothers, Dr. Ansari, our scholars, Dr. Intisar Rabb, and so many of you who are joining from Buffalo, across the country. Our board chair is also on, Omar Carter. I just want to thank everybody for being here. And as Brother Shamar said, we first and foremost begin by recognizing and extending our gratitude to the Most High, and also by recognizing the lands upon as he said, we walk, and the original caretakers of that land in this region where I'm honored to be standing among those tribes, were the Seneca tribe. So we ask that the Creator continue to send peace and blessings upon their righteous, all of their descendants, and may we always be mindful of the fact that we are on stolen land. I want to begin by, as Shamar said, this is going to be a conversation. I'm here at Feed Buffalo. I'm with these extraordinary women that I'm going to introduce here in a moment, we're going to hear from, but I should begin by acknowledging what Shamar said. This larger conversation about police accountability is nothing new at IMAN. I'll be honest in saying the first time I was arrested and had cuffs thrown on me, I was put in one of the most notorious police stations on the south side of Chicago, the 8th District. This was almost a year before IMAN's incorporation. And I did so, and I was arrested that year, I'll never forget, literally just for dropping off young men on a street, and cops were harassing me. I was put on a year probation. The police officers lied in court. That year I decided to leave the country, actually, and I went to the West Bank in Palestine, and I came back. But that becomes the same district that almost 15 years later is where Jason Van Dyke was operating out of and shoots Laquan McDonald 16 times. We have been working with the first Black superintendent in Chicago, Terry Hillard, to conduct reform, to go into stations. I've been in roll calls. We've done a tremendous amount of work. And over the last several years, worked on a police accountability ordinance from the Grassroots Alliance of Police Accountability. Our brother Desmond Yancey, our director of organizing, is has been leading that effort locally now. And we are hopefully, God willing, on the precipice of a victory in Chicago with the first ordinance for something that Martin Luther King came to the city over 55 years to fight for. Because when he came to Chicago, he was really coming to the soul of the nation, not just to the city, because he was fighting residential segregation, he was fighting redlining, and he was talking about police injustices. And on his list of demands was a police accountability board. That was over 55 years ago in the city. And recently, we have in Chicago been subjected to yet another horrific video. Although the person in this video, thank God, is alive, they still endured a type of humiliation, denigration, and a type of violence that is vile, and I'm talking about Miss Anjanette Young. If you have not seen the video, please brace yourself before you watch that video. Watch a woman who has done absolutely nothing wrong sit in her own house, plead with officers 42 times that they're in the wrong location while they make her stand naked in her own house. A woman who's been a social worker in Cook County Jail and had to endure this absolute humiliation. But what gives us hope, what gives us inspiration in the face of these dark times, is the type of organizing that we see not only in Chicago, but across the country. And what has been a source of profound hope for a lot of us and profound inspiration is a woman that's sitting here right on my right, Cariol Horne. And we have been pushing, and when we found out about this case, we advocated for it, we pushed for it, a law that, if it was in effect in Chicago, could have, in fact, even intervened in the case of Anjanette Young, holds police officers accountable for violence, subjugation, and not stepping in when there's a moment, when there's a demand to do so. We'll hear more about that, but I would have never known. I would never, in fact, be here in Buffalo and active and engaged or known about Cariol law if it wasn't for the woman on my left, who is an extraordinary activist, organizer, artist, and a woman I'm just very honored to be collaborating with in an artistic project called This Love Thing. And it was really because of Drea that we at IMAN, I and the larger community, have been introduced to Cariol Horne and to her larger case. And it's now been, Drea, almost 3 months since we made the decision to dedicate the video Mama Please to Cariol. I want to hear from you. We are in Drea Denour's, if you will, her queen kind of throne here at Feed Buffalo, where literally there are lines around the block. People come in, they engage her. She's not just an artist, she's not just a mother of 5 extraordinarily beautiful children. She is really a mother to so many in the community. And Drea, you've been such a source of inspiration. You're on our arts roster. You, out of like many others, but really powerfully embody this like natural connection between the arts, organizing, connections, and issues. And you do so without really thinking much about it. What has driven you to be so active in this type of work? And why, and with the case of Cariol, why did you initially come? What was your initial draw to it? And how have you seen anything kind of change since we decided to dedicate that video to her?
Thank you so much, Rami, for everything that you said. Yeah, I have 5 children. I am a Black woman. I am a Black mother. And for me, the most important thing in my life is the legacy that I am building, not only for myself, but for the children in my home. And I'm always thinking about what I can do and how I can use the gifts that God gave me in order to affect change. And I wanted to make sure that I'm doing it in an authentic way, in a long-lasting way, in a way that I heal our people. When I first met Cariol Horne, it was so many years ago, probably 15, 16 years ago. I would meet Cariol at some of my shows. She's always supported my music. And when I found out what happened to her, which I'll let you tell the story, it was absolutely devastating. Actually, the father of my children organized one of the very first community protests and, rallies on Cariol's behalf here in Buffalo, New York. And, I've always used my music in order to uplift whatever movement I felt like I was passionate about. And for me, I think we often fight for people after they are dead. Unfortunately, we fight for people after we read it in the paper or we saw a video. But we have a beautiful opportunity here to support Cariol Horne while she is still living. And to know that something like horrific happened to her the way that it did, and to know that she too is a mother of 5 children, it just seemed like my responsibility to get behind her and to lift her up. And the best way I know how to do that is to do it through my art. So I know that because of art, we are afforded a particular platform that many people don't have. And for me, if I'm not using that platform in order to establish some type of justice and to uplift this work and further the work that my ancestors have already been working for, and so many Black mothers have been working for centuries and centuries and centuries, then what am I doing? What do I have to give for? So to me, it was really a no-brainer. It wasn't something I thought about deeply. And when we learned about the murder of George Floyd, Cariol Horne did a video. She was so deeply just pained by that experience, hearing him cry out for his mother. And she did a video, and a lot of people saw that video, and a lot of people were moved by that video. And when I saw it, I was deeply moved to tears. And I felt like if we had a law like called Cariol's Law, I thought the law should be established in her name, then perhaps this would not have happened, And I didn't know that Cariol had already been working on a law since 2016, but she just didn't have the support that she needed in order to move it forward. So when I used my social media platform to post about this, and then I just got so many shares and inboxes, and next thing I know, I found myself amongst a collaborative that we call the Justice for Cariol team. And we begin to meet, weekly or several times a week even, to make sure that we can get this law passed. And praise God, in September, at the end of September, with the help and the hard work and dedication of our amazing team. One of our team members is on the line too, on this call, Terry Watson, shout out.
Yes,
but I'm sorry.
He also helped.
Yeah, and Terry Watson also helped to pen the law with Cariol 4 years ago. But yeah, so basically we just have been fighting so hard, and then in September, we were able to get that law passed here in Buffalo, New York, which was a really, really great feat, because there were so many people that were in office and in leadership that just for whatever reason hadn't done the work to make sure that this law got passed. So we absolutely believe that it was the work of this team. And I also absolutely believe that because of art, we were able to move this forward. So I'm really deeply honored to work on this project with Cariol. To me, it made total sense to dedicate Mama Please, our song that is on the This Love Thing project that Rami wrote. And it made sense to dedicate this to Cariol Horne, because it was a beautiful opportunity to honor her while she's alive. And to know that because of what she did, there is a man who is still alive because she intervened. She did it before social media. She did it before it was a trend. She did it way before, and she did it not because it was a law, not because she was trained to do so, but she did it because of the goodness that is in her heart. And I believe that it makes total sense why this law will be named after her. And it's not just a Buffalo thing. This is a national, I feel like it's something that we need everywhere nationally. So God willing, we'll be able to use our art to continue to uplift this movement. and to make sure that this woman gets her justice. We're still fighting that, so Cariol will get her pension. Again, she'll tell you more about that later. But the fight continues, and we're going to continue to use our voices and our art and our gifts in order to support her.
Alhamdulillah. So here's one big opportunity for snaps, emojis. The law passed because of all the extraordinary work and because we made a call to action across the country. Many of you reached out to people across your networks to flood the Buffalo City Council with phone calls and demand that the mayor sign that law into action. That was an organizing win that brought artists, activists, organizers in Buffalo and from people across the country to demand that. So let's acknowledge in organizing, it's important when we have a win to acknowledge that win, to be grateful to the Most High, to be grateful for all of those that made it possible, and to keep our spirits up. We can win. We can win. So that is important. Now, but as we will talk about, there is a huge court date for us on January 15th, the day Martin Luther King was born, his birthday. And so it is significant. We're going to call upon all of you again for a very, very important win that we know we can win and we must win. We'll talk about it. Drea talked about the platform of artists and activists and organizers. Drea is an arts leader at IMAN. She's on the arts roster. She's a fellow. One of the other artists who's also on the roster, he makes a cameo. He is the MC in the video that drops this extraordinarily beautiful rhyme. He wrote those words while he was running for councilman, a path he decided upon in part because of the organizing engagement he had with other artists at IMAN and the IMAN Artist Retreat. He could not be here, and I'm talking about Ja'Cory Arthur, who is now Councilman Ja'Cory Arthur, the youngest councilman in Louisville, Kentucky history, and he is literally on a meeting right now, but he recorded a very powerful message that we want to share with all of you from Ja'Cory Arthur. So at this point, we hear from Ja'Cory.
Peace. My name is Ja'Cory Arthur. I am a professor, a musician, and a councilman here in Louisville, Kentucky, here to support our sister, Cariol Horne. Before Drea sang "I Can't Breathe," before George Floyd said "I can't breathe," before Eric Garner said "I can't breathe," a brother named Neil Mack said those words. He was being choked by a white officer in Buffalo, New York. But before he met the same fate as Eric Garner, as George Floyd, he was saved. He was saved by a real-life superhero. And that superhero's name is Cariol Horne. But instead of being treated like a hero, she has been treated like a villain. She was fired from her job. She was stripped of her badge to protect and serve. She couldn't support her children. She was homeless. She was told to shut up. But she didn't shut up. Instead of shutting up, she showed out. She told her story. We helped tell her story. But that story is far, far, far from over because the city of Buffalo owes Cariol. They owe her for the pension she lost. They owe her for damages they caused. They owe her bonus for saving a life. If Cariol's situation was treated differently, if Cariol's law was across this country, I know that Eric Garner and George Floyd would still be here today. But because she was treated like a villain instead of a hero, here we are demanding for justice 10 years way too long. And I want to unpack that 10 years on the other side of the story. Because just this last year, 2019, 2020, we saw the Buffalo, New York police budget at $125.8 million. We saw the 2018-2019 police budget at $119.3 million. We saw the 2017-2018 budget at $117.5 million. 2016-2017, $115.3 million. 2015-2016, $105 million. We've seen this police budget go up. And when you look at this budget over 10 years that Cariol has been struggling, her city that owes her has been giving over $1 billion to a police department that has given her nothing but hell in return. So we know that Buffalo can afford this. When I rap, they got to deal with a debt. They got to cut us a check. That check is for reparative justice. That check is for Cariol. And I'm not playing. We are not playing. And Buffalo needs to start paying. Peace.
Yeah, it's hard to say to really follow that. You see why we had Cariol Horne off the track. Ja'Cory would go on to tell you, before he even made that message, he went to do his homework. Not only did he find that in 10 years that this police department has spent over $1 billion, he then went and combed through the budget like a good councilman and found that in the same period of time, social services amounted to $10 million. You do the math. 10 million versus 1 billion. In Chicago, much of our work as organizers is about building the infrastructure for jobs, for schools, for dignified housing. So people that are living in abject poverty, people that continue to struggle with disinvestment have opportunities not to get entangled with this criminal justice system in the first place. So it's a vicious cycle. And it's time to be righteously indignant. We have to sit back and watch people storm the Capitol and talk about their quote unquote righteous indignation. And we have to hear people condemn that, as they should. But where have we been? Where have those condemnations been for the injustices every single day that our communities are enduring? Where have those same voices that send out press releases that were hand-wringing as they were watching the Capitol, where have those voices been to celebrate the Cariol Horne, to lift her up? And that's why the work that we're doing today is so critical. Cariol, I know I was emotional, and I don't want to, put you more on the spot. You have often just your presence in and of itself has been healing and powerful. I do think though, it is important that people understand, because you're so quiet and dignified in the way you interact, what you've had to endure, and why this court case on the 15th is so critical for you and your family, and for all of those that love you, and for all women, and especially Black women, but all women in all oppressed communities across this country who feel like justice is not only demanded, but owed. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that with everybody? Just why this is so critical, why and what you've been enduring, and letting people know literally some of the challenges and the hardship. We got the law passed, but that didn't change the pain and what you've had to endure in the period of time that, as Ja'Cory was saying, that the city has spent over $1 billion on police and have not had the moral fortitude to take care of you and your family.
Well, it's been very painful. Actually, as Ja'Cory broke it down, it really kind of hit home. I've always been emotional when it came to my children, because they should not have had to suffer. I actually thought I was over the crying stage, but the way he broke it down was really, really emotional for me, because we went through a lot. For me, it's made me stronger, but for my children, they should not have had to go through that. And I appreciate all of the support that I have gotten, especially you, Rami, from Chicago, Drea, and for the legal team and everyone else that has come and surrounded me with love and the support for Cariol's Law, because Cariol's Law will save lives. And thank you, Terry, for helping me add to Cariol's Law and helping me push it, because Terry is my backbone from Pennsylvania. Because once I met him, I realized that we have some real men with some real backbone. And Rami is another one. Because as women, we are tired. We have carried this burden so long. So when we have a man stand up for us, it means a lot. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I have 5 children and I have 14 grandchildren. I don't want them to have to go through this over and over and over and over again. I'm tired. So Buffalo needs to do the right thing. They need to go ahead and make me whole so that other officers will understand that they are able to stand up now. This is 2021. We should not have to keep going through the same thing over and over and over and over again. It's time to put a stop to it. So I need everyone. We need to make this a national law. And it's not just happening on the police department. This is happening all over. When you look at what happened at the Capitol, there were military people, there were cops, firefighters. They were in all walks of life. These people are here serving us every day. So we just do not understand how serious this issue is. There needs to be a Cariol's Law in every profession. So I'm grateful for everyone that stood up. And I'm sorry that I'm so emotional, but the way he broke it down just really hit me in a way that I have never really felt before. So thank you.
Those of you who have seen Cariol present over the last year know that she's been oftentimes even stoic, beautifully calm, doesn't say much. And I think, and I'm sorry, we didn't intend for this to do that, but I also think there's nothing for you to apologize for. This is our collective accountability, and it is critical as we go into this week that we understand what's at stake. I want Cariol mention the extraordinary people that have been responding. Among them is a legal team that feels the urgency. We're joined by, we have been able to assemble by the grace of God through our relationships and the power of our relationships, a team from literally the best legal corporate law firm in the world, Kirkland and Ellis, folks who were on Obama's team, and from the best law school, in the most renowned law school in the country, if not world, Harvard Law. Dr. Intisar Rabb and Professor Ron Sullivan, 2 African-American, very proud Black lawyers. Dr. Intisar Rabb, the youngest tenured professor at Harvard University, is here with us, and they are representing. And this is not just a perfunctory case of going through the rituals. This is a case that is deeply connected to who they are and why they are in this in the first place. So I would love to hear from Dr. Intisar Rabb and our dear Professor Ron Sullivan about what in their minds at stake this week, and how collectively, if we work together and lift and turn up the dial, we can get this city and the state and the country to begin to do the right thing with people like Cariol, who represent all of our collective pain right now. So Dr. Intisar Rabb, there's so much in your bio, but forgive me for not introducing you with all of your accolades, but for the purposes of the time, we know you as in this extraordinary scholar of Islamic law, an extraordinary scholar, a legal scholar, an organizer, and again, the youngest tenured professor at Harvard University. If I could turn the mic over to Dr. Intisar Rabb.
Sure, thank you, Rami, for the very generous introduction. And thank you, Cariol, for giving us the opportunity to gather and to be here, and for so powerfully sharing a part of your story, and for doing the work, the really good work that gives us all this opportunity to see what needs to happen, and to be able to put into play the time, the resources, and the legal strategy that we're working on to ensure that there can be some justice done for you in the court system, such that you are made, as you so eloquently put it, so that you are made whole. It is far past time that happen. And frankly, you are why I'm here, and Professor Ron Sullivan is here. I went into the law because I saw issues of injustice all around me as I grew up in Washington, D.C. And I wanted to be in a position to do something about that. It led me down this path where I've done other things as well, but it's you. It's supporting cases and actions like yours, where rather than see a man die, you intervened, and then you led the way, and it took a long time for the country to catch up, or for Buffalo at least to catch up with the idea of that being the right thing to do. You got Cariol's law passed, and now we're working to help with the procedures of leading this issue through the court, so that you actually get relief. I think a lot of people don't know that just because Cariol's law was passed, they might think that the matter is resolved, and it's not. So on Friday, there's a court date where we'll talk about the case. It will be one of the steps on the way to resolving this case. This will be the first hearing, or the first court date in the case. It won't be the last one. We'll have a second one that the judge will determine at that point, but it'll be really important for us to be there to represent you. The team has been convening to devise a strategy to do that. We feel good about going in, and confident that the city is in a position to do the right thing, and that the courts are in a position to do the right thing, especially with Cariol's law being in place. And so we're going to do everything that we can to help make that happen, to help make them do the right thing.
Thank you, Intisar. Professor Sullivan, you have represented these types of cases across the country. You are a legend at Harvard and beyond. I would love to hear, and I think people on the Zoom would love to hear from you, my brother, about what this case personally means to you, and any other thoughts you have as you sit and reflect on the last 3 months and where we are now.
Thanks so much, and hi, Cariol. I love you. You know, we're always here, going to be fighting for you. My colleague Intisar Rabb really said it all. I won't be repetitive of her. All I will say is, for many of the same reasons, I was drawn to this sort of work. And when you have principles at your back, when you stand for something, then you just can't sleep at night. You can't sleep at night when injustice is out there. And that's what calls me. That's my avocation. That's what makes me get out of bed every morning. That's what motivates me. That's what impels me to do the sort of work that I do. When I see injustice out there, I can't sit still. I like to say that justice is not something that just falls out of the sky and lands on your desk. Justice is something that you've got to roll up your sleeves and do and make justice happen. And Cariol is the perfect symbol for that. That officer wasn't going to just stop choking that man by magic. Justice means that you've got to do something. You can't sit and talk about it. You've got to do something. And she did. And that ought to be a symbol for all of us. And it's a point of inspiration for me. And that's why I won't rest well until we've made Cariol whole. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. I'm just so grateful. You can't imagine the leadership of Professor Sullivan and Dr. Intisar Rabb, along with Kamran Bajwa and Neil from Kirkland and Ellis. They were able to, again, assemble an extraordinary team and have been investing hours upon hours. IMAN is committed to making this a pathway to a long-term ability to provide legal representation to similar cases across the country and to people here every single day in places like Chicago and Atlanta that are dealing with those injustices. I know our time is short, and so what I don't want to lose out of this Zoom is that you've heard the powerful words of Jacory, you've heard from my sister Cariol, you've heard from Professor Sullivan, Dr. Intisar Rabb. I want to say, as Terry and our organizers are on the phone, that we're going to be sending out a mass email, and we're going to be asking for 2 lines of action. One is going to be a set of phone calls that we want to flood the city of Buffalo and the state of New York. And we will provide at least 2 critical numbers, because the governor's office needs to hear about this, as well as the mayor's office. And they need to hear from people from all walks of life. Dr. Aldine and I I've met Dr. Aldine over 30 years ago at DePaul University. And, and she's gotten so many accolades and people get awards, but we want to cash in those accolades for demands now. I would like to see the president of DePaul University call. I'd like to see the president of University of Chicago call, the President Zimmer. I'd like to see alum from Harvard. I'd like to see people in our base from all walks of life identify who they are, calling and demanding why in 2021? Why do you even need our phone calls? Why, when you profess to say you want to do the right thing, why has it taken this long, right? Because, as they continue, they have the luxury and they also have the privilege to postpone dates as if people's lives are not in the balance, right? And to maybe think that perhaps we get into a new administration and the fierce urgency of now fades, the memory of George Floyd fades, the memory of that fades. We have to make sure that they understand that we will never let this story fade. We will continue to call and we will continue to demand. So we're going to call upon all of you to leverage your networks. If you're organizers, to organize and to place these phone calls. We're going to put some of those phone calls in the chat, the lines if we have them. And then all of you, please, before you leave, we assume we have all your emails, but if we don't, please make sure you place them so that when we send out the mass email with Terry and Desmond and our organizers tomorrow in preparation for the hearing on the 15th, that we can leverage this. God willing, we'll also try to generate some national news about this again. We're pushing folks at MSNBC. We're talking to folks at CNN. We're trying to get them aware. Cariol was on the front page of the Tribune and she was at the Breakfast Club. But again, we need to call to all of our media contacts, all of our brothers and sisters in the industry that have leverage and remind them this is the time. Don't we, like Drea said, it's not enough just to hashtag Black Lives Matter after a horrific death. That doesn't really help those families. That in and of itself does not help those families. We have to be more preemptive. We have to be more conscious of those who are still with us and their families. So the second ask is we are going to be talking to Terry and Cariol's team about the best way we could support Cariol in the interim, financially. How can we drive funds to her and her family during this moment? She has sacrificed so much. This law is critical. And yes, we need this law across the country, and we are fighting for it. We will be fighting for it in Chicago. I already told the mayor directly in the city of Chicago, Mayor Lightfoot, about Cariol, and I sent her the link to Cariol's law. But we will be pushing in Chicago, we're pushing in Louisville, pushing across the country to get this law passed. But in the meantime, remember, while she's pushing and she's on the front line, Cariol has not faded from any one of the issues. Anyone, any person, anywhere. I had the privilege of seeing them in action, the extraordinary team in Buffalo, Drea and Felicia and Terry and others from across the country. I saw how Cariol interacts with the everyday person on the street. I see the type of love and affection. She's as concerned for everybody. And so, but that sacrifice has meant that even while she's waiting and she's pushing the law, that she hasn't had the basic resources to help her and her family, her grandchildren, her children. They have suffered such extraordinary costs right now. So I'm asking, we will be asking, and as we will put this in the email as well, to push for resources to support Cariol and her family during this period as we fight for a larger systemic reparations at the state level. So those are going to be our two closing asks for everyone. And I want to again lift up all of the team. Again, big shout out to Terry Wilson, who is Watson. I'm sorry, my brother Terry. My eyes are going. That you know, has been the quiet force behind so much of the writing and legislation, and to all the organizers on Cariol's team here. Thank you all for coming on and being part of this. We are guests here today in Buffalo. I'm a guest, and as close as I am to Sister Drea, I never take that for granted. We are guests. She's opened up this beautiful pantry to host us for this Zoom here and live. And so I'm going to ask if Drea can close us out in prayer today. And please, we would like to hear from all of you in the chat about any other ideas you may have to talk to hold these type of sessions, to get some of our organizers connected to your networks so that we can get our student bodies. There's some creative ways I know that we can impress upon people there's no reason why they should not be flooded with phone calls this week. This is the MLK week. This is where we hear a lot, I'll be very honest, we hear a lot of empty jargon about MLK in cities where, that's why we fought for the first living memorial to Martin Luther King. We called it a living memorial. And we just thought it was insane and absurd that every year you recognize, there's not even a place to honor the place that he bled in the city of Chicago. There is now, because artists and organizers and activists came together, and we have that, and we fought for that. And so this is a week where we hear a lot of rhetoric, a lot of discourse, a lot of supposed righteous indignation from our progressive and liberal brothers and sisters across the country for what they saw. But let's channel them, let's challenge them to put that into action around issues on the ground, like Cariol Horne. So we have a real opportunity. And I believe there's a lot of beautiful brothers and sisters from all backgrounds, young white kids that have been on the front lines, the Asians, Arabs, others that are consciously using this moment to understand that it is a reckoning in America. But let's translate that into something that goes beyond these lofty kind of articulations of principles and values, and let's think about what it means on the ground for cases like Cariol Horne. We have an opportunity to provide them with that. So we should be flooding the lines with phone calls, God willing, and there should be no shortage of resources and support for Cariol and her family. She should not have to want of anything. We should take care of our sister. We should take care of our sister. So with that, I turn to Sister Drea and ask if she can close us out in prayer.
Yes, dear Most High, we thank you for everything you have done for us, for bringing us this far, for not leaving us, We know you to be a God of miracles. We know you to be a God who is faithful, and we know you to be a God who cannot lie. And you said that you are closer to us than our jugular vein. You are close to the brokenhearted. You are close to the oppressed. You hear the prayers of the oppressed. There is no barriers between you and the prayers of the oppressed. I know you are listening to every single one of Cariol's prayers and every single one of the prayers that we are praying on her behalf and on the behalf of all of those who are still fighting for justice. We want to acknowledge that we completely rely and depend upon you, because you are able to turn the heart of a king. You are able to change people's minds who feel like they have the power to oppress and bind and keep people broken and locked up and suffering and struggling in the name of the illusion of power. We know you are able to change their hearts and cause them to do things that doesn't even make sense to them. So we are trusting you to turn this around and to make Cariol whole. We are trusting you that all of our efforts will not be in vain. And we know that you see all, that you are making note of all, and most of all, that you care and you love for Cariol, and you care and love for all of us. So we completely put our trust in you, and we thank you for what you are about to do. Thank you for this legal team. Thank you for the Justice for Cariol team. Thank you for everybody on this call. I ask that you would keep everybody safe, that you would keep everybody protected, and that you would cause us to experience a deeper awareness of your love for us. We thank you so much in advance. We pray in your name. Amen.
CariolsLaw.com. CariolsLaw.com. That is in the Zoom. That will be sent out with the email, but it's also in the chat. CariolsLaw.com. And again, thank you all so much for being part of this. And thank you for the IMAN organizers, Shamar, Sadia, Binta, the entire team for this great power hour for making this possible. Assalamu alaikum. Peace and blessings be upon you all.